For me, the topic of fostering inclusion and combating hatred through media and civil society, it's very important, especially that where I come from in Iraq, we do need both media and civil society to work together on these issues to foster inclusion, to combat hatred, and they don't do that. Sometimes they help in increasing the violence rather than help in solving the problem. And that's why we should focus more on informing ourselves and informing them on how to work better towards inclusion and more combating hatred. So we shouldn't let the media define the narrative that we're living in. We shouldn't let the media make the world believe that this is what's happening, and maybe eventually making us believe that this is what's happening.
As an independent documentary filmmaker, I would say that my interest has always been to bring to light stories that are not really covered by mainstream news media. And so I'm going to be talking about an example that isn't on the radar of mainstream news media, but really shows a shift in not how we represent refugees, but how refugees see themselves.
So these guys started this project, and they started this project so that they could give an economic opportunity to refugees who otherwise are shut out from the job market due to discrimination.
I think that in terms of fostering inclusion and combating hatred, both media and civil society have different roles, but it was really, the highlight for me was really how these two together could actually have a specific impact. And I think that's sometimes where the missing link is. You get a lot of organizations that really do a lot of work, but they don't really highlight it through media, so it's not changing public perception.
So I also work on communicating to the international community what Libya actually is, for them to be able to engage in it.
If at school we work with media and showing portraits of migrants in media, showing how is, for example, Czech media writing about the current migrant question, how the German media write about it, why, like where is hate speech, like how are people portrayed, which stories are chosen, to write about, and do the kids have real life experience with that?
And soon I realized we need a media literacy program. We need to explore different cultural narratives in media.
So as a documentary maker, much of my work focuses on minority communities, particularly Muslims living in the UK, in Europe and around the world. We're living in a time at the moment where religion, Islam and the media are almost in the news on a daily basis. And so I'm exploring the synergy between things like Islamophobia, the role the media has to play both in terms of fostering inclusion, combating hatred, but also to what extent the media is accountable for issues like Islamophobia and racism.
So the question we then ask ourselves is, how do we define hate speech? And as we can see here, Twitter themselves, in relation to the videos Donald Trump retweeted, is trying to work it out for themselves. They're trying to reevaluate and examine their own policies. But hate speech evolves, hate speech changes, and we know that in the current climate, things are moving on very, very quickly.
As a Saudi woman, I was portrayed in media. I was represented or somehow misrepresented, sometimes often underrepresented. And so I had a role and a responsibility to become my own media. I wanted to be part of this conversation and see how I can utilize my engagement in civil society and responsibility towards media on a personal level, on a professional level, and both local and global.
Fatima, this didn't feel relevant. It felt personal. And with that statement, it's a motive for me, it's a motive for all of us to continue sharing our humanity, our stories, and allowing the other to experience it. Because only then would our humanity be realized, and only then can we foster it together.